Okay, so I'm going to be doing our song analysis on Jonathan McReynolds and the live version of his song Cycles, which is also featuring Doe, who's a very up and coming gospel artist. Yeah, she's awesome. I'll talk about her later. But so just a quick overview on McReynolds. He is 33 years old. He has gotten a Grammy Award for Best Gospel Performance / Song, and is part of Light Records, which many famous artists like Crouch and Hawkins were also signed to. Like Crouch, Jonathan McReynolds is really changing the sound of gospel through his various influences and by his new approach. And what I mean by new approach is that he doesn't sound like a typical gospel singer, which frankly can sometimes be a little bit boring, not all the time, but sometimes. But he has this very high, technically good, almost perfect, I would say, voice. And he hits these incredible runs and notes that aren't typically heard from male gospel singers. And it's really honestly quite impressive. And on a personal note, I am not the most religious person, but I felt his music, and that's why I chose to do this project on him, because I can really feel what he's singing. And he spreads this message of making room for God. But it's very powerful, and he preaches to people to make room, not just on Sundays or when you're in church, but every day. And I really feel like that reaches a younger crowd, more specifically inspiring a younger crowd to still follow God outside of church in that church setting. And he has this living room concept that he shows on his stage as well. You can sort of see it in this, but it's better seen when he's performing live. And there's just couches everywhere, and his background singers are sitting with him as his equals, passing around the mic, sharing their voices and their talent. And it's really impressive, honestly. I had never seen any concerts like this before, which, granted, he's not selling out stadiums, so he's able to do this, but at the same time, it's a really smart concept for what he's doing. It just makes it very intimate and cozy and meaningful. Versus in church, when a choir is standing in front of you, they feel very unreachable, and he's very easy to relate to and connect with, which is powerful. And then Doe is the featured artist on the song Cycles. She is a very up and coming. Her real name is Dominique Jones, but she goes by Doe in music. And people are calling her she's been awarded for Contemporary Gospel Album of the Year she's been nominated for, and people are saying she could be the newest up and coming artist and all that. And she's very recently gotten nominated for all of this, 2022, 2023. Some of these haven't even come out yet, but she's very talented and up and coming, so it makes sense for her to be on a record with Jonathan McReynolds, because he is also very up and coming. Or I guess he's already up, but still, she's very impressive. But moving on to the song analysis, hold on, I'm gonna move me over. I don't know if that worked. So I have it as it starts with an intro and then goes A, which is the verse, and B is the chorus. And then when it goes to verse 2, so A2, that is when Doe comes in, and she does the whole verse and next chorus on her own. And then I have the next thing labeled as a bridge. I called it that because they're building up to something, and they're still singing very similar lyrics to the chorus, but they are different. It's a bit more of ad-libbing and just intimate, I would say. And then after that, it goes back to a chorus, and then I have it labeled as a standard vamp. And then after the vamp, which the lyrics of that are, what is it? In power in the name of Jesus, and they sing that multiple times. And then they go on and they repeat the last half of the chorus. So I labeled that as be like half tagged because it's not the whole chorus. There's a part in the beginning, it's the second half. And then it goes into one final chorus into the outro. So that's the analysis I have on that. There are some really powerful lyrics in his song. He's very talented lyrically and just in general. Sorry, I'm moving this all over the place. I want to show the screen. There we go. But one line that really hit me personally is see the devil, he learns from your mistakes, even if you don't. And I feel like it's honestly not even, you don't have to be religious or listening to gospel music for that to relate to your life, I feel. Because it's sort of saying people make mistakes, and that's why it's sort of talking about these cycles, because sometimes it's hard to learn from your mistakes and it takes a few tries. And that's the same with this next line I have on the bottom of the screen. Didn't I conquer this last year? Tell me what I missed, because I fear that it's coming back up again. And that's also, once again, very relatable. It just feels like you're going in these cycles of turmoil and you don't always learn from your mistakes originally. But yeah, the lyrics really were emotional and powerful, and very impressive that he was able to get those feelings into words and to music. And that's one of the reasons he's so talented and successful. This is another part of the song that I thought was just really powerful. In the end, when he's going through the chorus, he adds these 3 words each time, and he said generational cycles. And his lyrics are very explicit. Like he talks about Jesus and God a lot, but it is very relatable still. But he goes on to say generational cycles, which, as we know in the Black church, sometimes generations don't really want to change their views or how they think about things. And that's sort of how I interpreted that, as well with financial cycles. Like we talked about in the beginning of the year, the Black church, well, this might be obvious, is meant for Black people. And it's important that your religion addresses your struggles. And when people in church are struggling in life with food or money, those aspects don't fall on communities in the same way. And so I think him touching on financial cycles while singing gospel music, which is primarily for a Black audience, once again, it's like church, like the Black church relating to that specific community. And I thought that was powerful and good to see in a song. Then he talks about painful cycles. And I think that sort of relates back to what I was saying earlier about making mistakes and not necessarily learning from them, but they hurt. So yeah. This is a picture that I took just from one of his concerts. His music is felt by his audience, whether it is on Spotify, whether you're watching it from a computer, or if you're live and this is the audience while he's performing. People feel his music, and I think that's why he's so successful. One could say he has inspirational music, although it is in the gospel genre. His music, his lyrics inspire people, whether it's for change or to make room for God or to let your emotions out. So that's also quite powerful. Ignore my really messy handwriting here, but this is what he started talking about after the song ended when I was watching his concert live. And he's essentially talking about God puts you through these roller coasters. And he wanted to see if just once he would scream and let it all out versus being quiet and holding on to the bar of like the roller coaster. And I added this not because it necessarily relates to the song. It says it after the song. I just think it shows who he is as a person and how sometimes like letting it out is way more effective than holding it in and letting it build. And I think his music is an outlet for that and for other people. So I just felt like adding that because it felt relevant. These are words I just pulled out of different songs of his. And this is sort of to just show how it is very explicit. He mentions God, glory, the Lord, the devil, all of that, but he also mentions love and power and heart and being a fighter and smiling and making room and all of that. So I just thought, looking at it from an outside perspective, his music is very explicit, but it's also very inspirational and powerful. And that is all I have on Jonathan McReynolds, but I really enjoyed listening to his music. I listened to the majority of his songs while I was working on this presentation, and I really think we're going to hear a lot from him in the future. I think he's probably similar to Crouch in the sense of changing gospel and reaching wider audiences and people around not just gospel, but throughout music in general as a genre. So it should be really interesting to see what he does, as well as Doe, because she is also very up and coming, I'd say newer. So I'll definitely be keeping up to see if she wins those awards in 2023 and all of that. So thank you. And that is Jonathan McReynolds.